Yeah!
It's Josh Williams here with another bonus episode of the One Man Podcast. My guest today is a phenomenal comedian. He's a favorite at Absolute Comedy at all of our locations. He's traveled North America doing comedy. It's his 30th year in stand-up comedy. Originally from New York, now makes his home here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And he's with me today, my buddy Mike Dambra. Thank you so much for joining me.
I am here. Thanks, buddy. I am here. I'm awake.
Yeah. How's you've been here for this is now the second week doing shows. How's Ottawa treating you this time around?
Good. It was crazy this time. There's no days off, which is usual here. But this time there's added shows. So there's 3 on Fridays and Saturdays. There's just no.
Well, as soon as everyone knows you're coming, the shows tend to sell out
It's
quick.
a
So it's a
little
very
crazy. Last night was jammed and we didn't expect it. And it was an older folks group.
Yeah?
Singles group.
Was it? It was older singles?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
They meet once a month. They don't remember each other. By the time they see each other again, it's like a brand new thing for them.
That's so funny. It's like the Golden Girls. Instead of 4, there's 40 of them.
Yeah. And she says, the one lady stood up and says, I guess it's you and me tonight, buddy, outside. And I go, isn't that your husband? She says, he's half asleep, she says.
That's awesome. So, I mean, that's a big milestone. You just told me like 30 seconds before we started recording that this is your 30th year in stand-up comedy.
Yeah. December. It'll be 31 in December.
That's amazing.
So I said, I'll take huge chunks of work again because I've been home. Not doing comedy. I can't remember the last time I had a week off, but home with my daughter, raised her by myself, so it's harder to go on the road for any extended period.
Absolutely. And that's a great story. And I'm gonna definitely bring us there at one point. I wanted to start by saying, 30 years is a great milestone.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Do you remember? It almost sounds like, listen, you're getting up there.
I don't
Now,
know.
do you remember? Like your first time starting stand up. Like, why did you start stand up comedy?
It was a dare.
Really?
Yeah. Yucks was having their first contest in Rochester, New York. They had a club there and one in Buffalo. And the people, my dad wanted me to pick up a day job. I had just quit singing and dancing and acting, all that stuff, to get married the first time. That worked well. And it was a dare. They called up to sign me up, and they said they only take 50 people. We already have 50 people. And the lady that called, Joanne was her name, says, I guarantee you 100 paid tickets from us right now if you let them in the contest. And the girl at the box office goes, well, I guess you're number 51. And they put me in. I won 3rd place. I lost to a guy with a dildo.
That was his act?
He would tell a joke, and he had a huge dildo in his hand, and he would go, get it? And he'd slap the wall with it and go, it's a dick joke. He got 2nd. And 1st place was a guy that literally came out on stage and said, I'm going to perform a bit from Eddie Murphy's Raw. And he did 5 minutes of that.
And won the competition.
And won the competition.
Material.
Yes, won the competition.
Wow. Just, wow.
I got 3rd.
And was that all one night?
No, that was 2 nights.
Wow. So they did 25 people a night.
Yes.
And then a ton of judges. Was it audience votes?
So, no, it was all judges. There was no audience votes. Or I had 100 people.
Right. No, that's fine. That's fine. That makes sense.
My prize was Buffalo, which was 40 minutes away. But I got to open for Norm Macdonald before he was Norm Macdonald.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because he was big with Yucks. So
Yeah.
if Yucks was involved in this, that would have been it.
Yeah. And he brought me over to his manager, who was also the owner of the Rochester Club, and said, I like this kid. And I was so new. I had done it. That was my 4th performance. And the guy says, how much time do you have? And I go, what? I thought I did too much. Or he goes, well, you did 10. Can you do 20? I go, yeah, I guess. Sure. And he walked away. That was it. And then, and probably still in these days, I don't work for them anymore. But Yucks, you sign up for an amateur night. It was like another month down the road.
Right, before you could do it again.
Before I could do it again. And I went in, and the manager of the club says, could I speak to you for a minute? And he brought me in this it was the ticket office, but his office too, and just started screaming, what did you say? What did you say to Howard? What did you say to Norm? I didn't say anything. They asked me how much time. And he passed over this big chunk of paper. And he goes, you leave in 9 weeks. And it was to come out west for Yucks. He goes, whatever you said, you're middling, you're opening. Okay.
Well, that's great. And like one or the whole Western tour you got.
The whole Western tour.
That's amazing.
9 weeks.
That's amazing. Because my follow-up question always, whenever I have my guests, is I always say, how did you start? What was your first set like?
Yeah.
And then how long before, you started getting the paid stuff, or whatever. So you were right out of the gates.
Yes.
You entered a comedy competition on Dare.
No clue.
Third place. You won more work.
Yep.
As a prize, and then just chatting with them out.
Started getting paid right away.
10 or 20?
Yep.
That's awesome.
And then I went out for yucks, still not knowing what I was doing. I got off the bus in Winnipeg. It was March, so imagine how cold, with a leather jacket, no gloves, no hat, to start the tour. I took the bus for 3 straight days. And then at the end of the tour, Judy Sims took me in her office. She goes, well, you say you just started. You've obviously been doing this for a while. She says, how much time do you have? She says. I go, what? I did 20. Like, what do you need? They keep asking me that. She goes, right. Could we double that? Maybe 40? She goes, I'll bring you back in 6 months and you could co-headline. And that was it.
Wow.
That's it.
It's like all these guys like, well, I did open mics for about 3 years and finally just right into it. Just like that.
Yeah. So when I came home, everybody from that open mic was like, oh, dude, must have sucked because I did the tour, and Jay Wendell Walker, God bless him, he liked me, and he goes, you want to go to North South Dakota when we're done with this? So we did 2 weeks right after on my way home, because I had to take the bus anyways, right? And we're there, and they're like, Jay says he can't do Wisconsin for us. That's the 3rd week. You want to do Wisconsin? So I'm another state over. Yeah, I'll do it. So when I got home, everybody's like, it must have been horrible. We haven't seen you. I've been on the road. And everybody had been doing open mics 4 or 5 years. No, you haven't. No, been on the road. Yeah. And I got to leave again in 2 months. They said I was going back. That was it.
That's great. Honestly, the first
no
time
clue what I was doing,
competition,
Josh.
boom. That's still great though. I mean, it's I'm gonna have to edit all of that out, because every amateur listening going, oh, all I have to do is lie and say how much.
I know.
All I have to do is say I have 20, and
it wasn't even a lie. It was literally a dice roll. Like, I think I can.
Well, and that's not on you.
Yeah,
when you're that new.
I had no idea what.
Yeah, when you're that new, they're like, you just did 10. Can you do 20? And you're like, I didn't know I could do 10. So I guess I can do 20. Yeah.
So I had no idea. No clue.
How did those shows go though with the 20? Was there lulls? Were you reaching? Or
no, when I was reaching, when I came back to the States and did the North, South Dakota and the Wisconsin, I was reaching, because in those days was the boom in Canada. Every room was jammed. You know what I mean? It was, those rooms were like Calgary and Vancouver and Edmonton were gold rooms, like Ottawa here, like Absolute here, were just the booming. It was packed all the time. You come back North, South Dakota, I hadn't done any of that stuff. And you're doing these one-nighters, and there's 3 people, and you got to do 20, and you don't know how to fill that time. Yeah. That's when it got rough for me.
Yeah. But I mean, now I've done shows with you where there's 5 people in a room, and you have quite the talent of finding
they got to fish hook me off.
No, but it does, and that's one of the skills. I mean, I've come up, for anyone listening, you do a lot of talking to the audience. You do a lot of crowd work, which some people frown on, and I have a different view of it. I mean, I like a mix of material and crowd work, but I have more fun personally doing crowd work.
Right.
I know that there was a show you and I did in Toronto where it was 20 something people in the room.
Yes.
I'm hosting, you're headlining, and you would think, 20 people, there's not enough
go
material around. Or whatever.
Right.
And I think that between you and I, we had only, from that hour and a half show, I'd only talked to 10 people, and it never got stale.
Nope. Which it was super fun. Super fun.
Yeah. I had fun with that. But again, it's hard, because I think crowd work is very difficult. We really, for the most part, are coming up with everything that we're saying off the top of our heads, just based on what they're telling us, whether it's their job or their relationship or whatever they're talking about.
I take grief, but doesn't everybody about their act in some way or another? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that's one of the things. So it's like, I mean, going from that whole, like, well, I was reaching, but now it's almost like, I don't have any time, but go ahead and put me in a room of people and I will talk to them.
I'll do it.
We'll
I'm
start
fine.
Laughing. Yeah.
That was another one that I had no idea. I thought you had to do new jokes every time. Mm-hmm. And so by the 4th time I'm up there after the Norm thing, I got to go on tour. What do I do every night? And I had all these sheets of paper. You're doing this. So I jumped into the crowd, because I'm like, I can't write that fast.
Yeah.
And it worked. And then the guy had said to me that night, you obviously have a talent for that. And I'm like, well, nope. I'm just getting away with shit, actually. And I just, refined it from there.
Well, it sounds too, even just like the idea of like one show led to the next show. It sounds like a movie where it's just like how far is he going to go with the lie before it catches up to him?
Just to the second marriage. That's as far as I went.
Now, you were saying before stand-up comedy that you were acting and dancing. I know you've told me about that before, but I don't know a whole lot about it. What kind of acting and performing were you doing before stand-up?
I sang and danced. I was a little local superstar. At my last show that I did, Barnum, I was trained by Barnum and Bailey Circus to
really
juggle, walk the tightrope, do the tablecloth under the...
Oh, whip the tablecloth off and the glasses are standing, all that stuff?
I had a 12th grade reading level in first grade, and they didn't know what to do with me. So they put me in the shows, and you know how they used to have a mother on the side reading the lines to the kids because they'd always forget.
Right.
They put me out there. I'd feed it to them while we were on stage because
you could
memorize the whole script.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, how old were you when you started? Like, how did they find you?
6.
So you're 6 years old. How did you get started with that?
With what?
Well, Barnum and Bailey.
Oh, Barnum and Bailey. No, that was my last show I did.
Oh, okay.
I was in my 20s. No. When I started, then they sent me out on auditions because they didn't have plays at the school. Then they sent me to girls' schools that didn't have boys. Then they sent me to colleges that didn't have kids. And then we started doing these road trips to Broadway for auditions and stuff like that. Then when I was 14, I sang for the Pope. I know.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Me and my buddy, it was a chorus competition. It was a competition for chorus. And they were sending in, it's Reader's Digest. It was Reader's Digest. So we sent in a tape of our Goofy. You know what I mean? Me and him on guitar. The chorus won, and we got picked as the opening. We were the opening act. We did 10 cities, 14 days.
That's amazing.
I know.
And with the New York accent and just... I'm just trying to think of this young Mike Dambra singing and dancing for the Pope.
There's a picture on my phone. Too bad you can't put it on your podcast.
Well, I can, if you want to send it to me, what I'll do is I'll put it on the Instagram or whatever. So people listening, go to the Instagram One Man Podcast or Twitter or Facebook, and I'll post the picture of Mike Dambra. Is this a picture of you singing to the Pope? Or?
This is my first year in comedy, so you can imagine what I looked like singing for the Pope.
Okay.
This was, yeah. Here you go, bro.
Thank you very much. I'll make sure that I send this. I'll give you guys a quick little description. Oh wow, this is an awesome picture. Oh my God, that's outstanding. Okay, listen, I don't want you guys to listen to me looking at it, but I hope you're looking at it. I hope this me glaring at it gives you guys the time while listening that you need to go on to Instagram. So One Man Podcast, and I'll Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you know they're there.
Yeah.
I'll post that. That's great, Mikey. That's an awesome picture. I have, and of course, the episode itself will have a picture of you now.
Yeah.
So that's great. And so you went from that to doing stand up right out of the gates, doing tours all over the place.
Yes.
Was there any milestones that you hit at any point? Because I know that there was a character that you developed.
Oh yeah, that was after the first milestone I hit was I started getting picked like crazy to open for anyone that came through that was a name. The club started handing out tapes of the opening guys of who they were. And I just, like, I got Jerry Springer when he was doing the Too Hot for TV and he was touring around.
I remember that.
And he needed an opener, and I got picked for that. I got picked for the Howie Mandel show, and he would use different guys, but he liked me, so he kept me until he was out of my range, you know, to have me. I got picked for Adam Sandler. I got picked for Chris Rock.
And this is all in Rochester?
Yeah. I got picked for Lou Graham's from Rochester, so I got picked for Foreigner.
Wow.
Yeah, right before he had left. That stuff. I got picked for Michael Bolton.
To open for Michael. I can just picture you opening for Michael.
That was one that I did well, but they tapped the check on the table like, leave now, like, get out. That was not, you were not supposed to address him or say anything about him or anything about the 150 security guards that were numbered and were wherever, because he would come down the center in a float and sing Georgia on My Mind, right? So I didn't need them for me. And they would stand in front of me with their arms crossed. So finally I went down and sat in between them. And I said, look, you be time, you be love, I'll be tenderness. And they both broke, and they weren't supposed to. That was that was bad. So the audience quite enjoyed it. And then I came backstage and they were tapping my check out. Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, that was a disaster.
Really? What happened?
She took my dressing room and they all got hammered, and they said, "Hey, opener, you can go to the buffet now." And they had all poured their beers in there and their dirty plates. There was like 40 people. It was the first night of her, whatever it was, comeback tour. And she tripped over the mic cord, came out, and stood at the edge of the stage and screamed, "Let's get this bullshit over with." And I'm like, this is good. This is what I want. I did a whole bunch of those in 90, 91. That literally every time I turned around, I was getting picked for that stuff. So that was huge for me because the stuff that I had bumbled through and learned through osmosis, I really got to sit back and watch professional entertainers in all stages, singers, whatever, actors, comedians, do what they did and how they handled things. That led into me getting a lot of work with others. So then I did Bill Hicks and Larry Miller and those guys and Gilbert. And I got to work with those guys because I was getting better at what I was doing. And then I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to do my own tour. And I didn't want to be any local opener. I didn't want to be that guy for the rest of my life where I was very comfortable, but I was just showing up whenever they needed somebody at a concert. I didn't want to do that. Yeah,
you don't want to be like the house MC sort of thing or whatever it is. Just do your own thing and move around like these people are doing. You know what I mean? They're not staying stagnant.
That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, they're not house headliners.
There was never any fame. As it always in every stage. I can honestly tell you that whenever I hit a peak, I would freak out. There was never any stage where I'm like, I want to be famous. It to this day makes me so nervous.
Right.
That I can't have that one-on-one experience with people.
Right. It gets to a point where just anywhere you go, you don't want to be the point where anywhere you go, you're getting bothered.
It makes me nervous. Like when I go home now, when I go to New York and Gracie, like, people, I can't do a mall, and that's a little town. It's a city, but you know what I mean. I can't walk. I'm not that guy. You've known me a long time. I'm not that guy. I'll say something.
No, that's true. That's true. Now, there's a few things. There's three different stories or at least questions that I want to ask, but I'm not sure in terms of a timeline which came first. The Pickle was, I should say, a huge part of your act. You haven't done that in some time, but a lot of people know you for doing the Pickle thing. There's also your move to Canada, and of course, the story of Grace that I want to share with everybody. So The
Pickle thing came when I finally decided I'm doing my own thing.
Okay, how did that start? Like, what was the genesis? Do you want to tell us about the character and how it started? Or
the character is a kid that I grew up next door to that him and his brother and me were the only boys in the neighborhood, and literally every other family was all girls. That's who we had to play with. It was me and Joe and Pat. Pat had Down syndrome. I didn't know the difference. And then we moved there. I was going into 4th grade, and I didn't understand why he couldn't ride the bus. And anyone that explained it to me would whisper, "He's retarded." Right? And I'm like, what? I was very angry. I didn't get it.
What does that mean?
Well, no, he was good enough to play with us. He was good enough to hang with us all day. Why couldn't he go to school with us? Why are you whispering about him now?
Right.
And I didn't understand it. Anyways, for the time that I stayed there, and that was until I was 18, so 4th grade until I was 18, it was me, Joe, and Pat. That's who you played with. That's who I hung out with. So I was in Edmonton one night, and a lady was undoing screws from the table and throwing them at the amateur comics. Serious, I know.
That's like Mike Holmes.
She ran out of things.
Make it right.
Yeah, she threw the lemon in her drink. She did ice cubes one at a time, and it was jammed. In those days, the club was so packed, and they couldn't find her. And I had come in. I had an outside thing, and I came in. I go, "Just bring me. I'll take care of it. And I said something about you're acting like a retard. That's all I said. Mm-hmm. And she goes, "I can't believe you used that word." And she says, "You probably also say homeless." And I go, "Yep, I do." She goes, "Well, you're an asshole. My sister's homeless." I go, "How am I the asshole?" She's your sister. Let her in the fucking house. And she flipped the table, and they had to take her out. And they took her out, and she was screaming. And they took her past the line for second show, and she was screaming. And so second show, I'm doing second show. And in those days, when I was much younger, by second show, I was nice and lit by that,
Right.
And some guy goes, "Sir, can I ask you a question?" And I go, "Yeah." He says, "What was the whole retard thing last show?" The lady was yelling when you were dragging her out, when they were dragging her out.
That's
so
funny.
I retold the story. And just off the top of my head, I said, why don't you ask a retarded guy what he wants to be called? And the first thing out of my mouth was Pickle.
Nice.
And it went from there.
Wow. Well, and it's been very, very popular. I mean, the act developed and things like that. And you used to have like, I mean, I remember you had merchandise and things like that. Shirts. It was such like he was. I mean, a character. It wasn't Pat. It was a character, but it was just he was a star.
Yes. There would be people that would come back that were Pickle that I would pick out of the crowd and make Pickle that were upset that they weren't Pickle the second time they came back. And
really?
Yeah. There were shirts, and that's 3 different kinds of shirts. We'd tape in different cities because it would always be different. And then when we go back, we'd sell that CD in that city.
Really?
Yeah.
That's smart. Because then it's the one from your hometown or whatever.
And it would say Pickle in St. Louis or, Pickle in Detroit.
And I do remember because I've worked with you many times and I've seen where we've done a show in a city, whether it be, Toronto, Kingston, Montreal, whatever it is, and people will come back again the next time.
Yep.
Then a year later or whatever, and they go, we're still calling him Pickle or whatever. It's like, and I even myself too, just again that crowd work thing where you do a show and you dick around, you call someone a just a throwaway name or whatever, and then if you happen to see that person again, they're like, we're still calling him that. You remember when? And I go, oh yeah, which half the time I don't.
Yep.
But they're like, yeah, we're still calling. It's so funny how it's just a funny little thing off the top of our head ends up being that person's identity
for a long time.
Yeah.
So the Pickle thing stuck with a lot of people. And it got big. And it got big to the point where there were people yelling about it because you're picking on retarded kids. No, I'm not. Like, no, I'm not. I'm picking on a guy that is not and saying, how does that feel to be called that?
Right.
And I'm just doing a show around it. That's it.
Yeah. And well, he's empowered. He's the hero. He's the one effectively teasing the other people in the crowd.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
He picks on every single person in the crowd. I'm his voice.
The puppet.
I know.
Well, that's been, like I said, that's a great character. People keep coming back year after year after year. And you've recently, in the last 2 years, sort of retired the character.
I did because it was, now that things are so much more politically correct, it was getting more slack than it was love. And Pat, God bless him, he's still alive. Pat ended up getting his own billboard. Pat got his own commercial. Pat took it way past where I took it. Like, he was a big deal. He was on the brochure for the house, the living, Pat was a huge deal.
You made him a celebrity overnight.
Well, I did it once, and his nurse came to see me to see
what it was all about.
It was a big family. They lived next door to us, and I didn't ever want them thinking, some people are yapping at how mean that was. That's not. And so she says, I'm going to bring Pat to a show. And they brought Pat to the show, and he sat way in the back, and I do the hands in the air and the fingers. And Pat yelled out, I'm over here, Mike. I said, if he's good with it, I'm good with it.
Right. Absolutely.
So for a while there, when merch was stupid, we were sending money to Special Olympics and stuff like that. But after a while, nobody believes you, and I'm not bringing a folder.
Right.
That's not what it was about, you know, to say, look what I did. And I had people come over tables at me.
Really?
Yeah.
That's I mean, not to go into it too much, but that's one of the things that still irks me. It doesn't matter what the subject. I mean, I'm 14 episodes into my podcast, just my episodes, I think 20 with the interviews.
Yeah.
And I've already had people come at me again, I'm not so my listeners have to listen to this story over and over every time I tell someone, but yeah, people just coming at me when I'm trying to talk positively about something, like not the slightest bit of hate, not like, oh, hey, this was a joke, but it's like, no, this is just me talking positive. Someone's like, you can't say that like that. And I'm like, fuck, why does anyone even try if you're just in trouble all the time?
I know.
I know. I was like, yeah, fuck it. But that's the thing too, right? If Pat's having a good time, people having a good time, and it's like, let that one person be angry because you're not going to change their mind.
You can't do it. He sent me, how many years ago was it? I want to say 2 or 3. He sent me a picture. He heard I was in town, and him and his brother Mike sent me a picture of Pat flipping me off.
Oh, really?
Pat wants to know he loves you, and here's the picture. Yeah. It was awesome.
That's awesome.
I know.
How long after you started your career, like when did you move to Canada? What happened that made you want to move here?
There was a girl that was the head waitress forever. We all knew her. Like, I'm with a comic this week that I haven't seen since 2002 when I brought her name up. Oh my God, I didn't know that was. Everybody knew her. I never knew her outside of the club. I knew her to hang at the club. We never went to a lunch or a dinner or anything. And I would always ask her out, and she said, I would never date a comic, especially you, Dambra. Which is, I've heard that more than once. So she wrote me, it was MySpace. She wrote me and said she had cancer, she had thyroid, and a brain tumor, and she had like a year left. So I don't know when you come back for tour, but it's on my bucket list. If you want to go to dinner, we can go do that date.
That's nice.
Okay, so we talked for a long time before I finally said, why don't I just come there? And I was in I did a stretch of time, 5 straight years without a week off, just to see how long I could go doing comedy every week. I had to be paid, and it had to be within 7 days. Those were my own stupid rules.
Okay, but that's something. It's good to have goals.
I would always drive at night when I was done. And at the time, she had said to me, it's summertime and there's a lot of deer. Why don't you just drive in the morning? Why don't you leave in the morning? Because I never do. It's bad luck to me. That's just my thing.
To drive at night or to leave in the morning?
To leave in the morning.
Right.
I want to leave when I'm done. My ties are cut. I'm out.
Right.
So I promised her I'd wait. I left at 7 in the morning. At 7:08, the old man ran the red light, sheared my car in half.
Really?
Rochester, Minnesota. Yeah. So I couldn't. That was the end of the streak. I couldn't talk. I put teeth through my tongue.
Really?
Yeah. I had glass in my hands and bruised my sternum.
And you said the old man, like it was
He was on his way to chemo.
This was a senior citizen or your old man?
No, an old man.
An old man. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, I apologize.
Ran a red light. He was on his way to chemo and he heard the church bells.
Wow.
Thought he was late. So he ran the red light, took off the front of the car. Some kid on a bicycle pulled me out. Anyways, I was doing a one-man show in Lethbridge, Alberta. That was my first show back. And I walked into the offices in Calgary, and the guy that owned, it was Yucks, and then it went on to be whatever it was, Laugh Shop after that. He said, your name just came up because our GM just left, just walked out. Your name came up about running the club because we know you did it in New York for a little while. And we thought maybe you'd like it here, but we know you'd never come off the road. And I said, you know what? I got this going on with her, but she's got a year left. I'll sign a year contract. I'm within 3 hours of her, 2.5 hours. We could do that.
And you guys were seeing each other at that point,
Yes.
so the date went well, and
So
and
yeah, we did that. And then she had said we had a serious talk about, let's not get too attached because I can't have a family. I can't. And her doctors had said it's a 10 million to 1 chance because she had radiation packets sewn in her. She can never have any more kids. That part's done. I was like, all right, whatever. Like I was more worried about how long she had left breathing.
Right.
And then her lungs collapsed and she was in an oxygen tent. And they didn't know why. And they checked her out and she was pregnant. They're like, no, her body couldn't handle it. It was just like this force flush they said, we got to take the radiation packets out, but we got to get rid of the baby. It's been exposed to radiation for like 2 months. And then they did tests on her and the cancer was gone. Baby was keeping her alive. So her immune system had basically flushed her out. And that's when she went into shock and her lungs.
So that was the thing. It was basically the shock was her body kicking the cancer.
Yep. Yeah.
And that was that was Grace's immune system.
They said, we recommend you have the baby. And I'm like, I'm good. And Mel was not. She wasn't on board.
Right.
Because she
even though it saved her life.
Because she had done her bucket list. She was done. She was done. She had said every goodbye she needed to say, and she was at the end, and she was done. So to say to her, you're going to be fine, because they said you have to have 3 clear biopsies before we get, you can have the okay to have the baby. So we didn't get the okay to have Grace till she was 5 months pregnant, almost 6.
Right. So a little late at that point.
Yeah. But in Canada, it's different rules. If it threatened her life, they could.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Was Grace threatening her life at that point?
No, she was saving it.
Oh, okay. Well, yes, no,
Yeah.
of course. I just thought maybe at the 5-month thing that she's
If the cancer
saved, but
came
she's
back,
weakened or something.
No,
like
if the
that.
cancer came back. No, that was the healthiest she ever was.
Wow.
Ever was. And she had the baby, and then I had like 2 weeks to marry her before I had to leave the country because my contract was up.
Right.
And then I would have had to leave for 6 months before I could come back. So
Yeah, you don't want to be away from your kid for that long.
I wanted to stay. Well, we hadn't agreed. I have other kids, and I did part-time dad. I did absolutely no dad. And I says, if I'm doing it this time, I'm doing it the right way. I don't need it on my shoulders anymore.
Right.
And so I said I would, and I have so far. I have.
Well, you've done an outstanding job. Anyone who knows you knows that Grace is a huge part of your act.
Says the guy that fed her poutine till she threw up.
Not my kid.
I love Uncle Josh, but I never want poutine again. That's what she said.
That was so funny.
That's what she said.
This is so yummy.
I know. And you're like, I go, did you stop her at any point? No, let her eat.
Well, I
That's what she wants. Let her eat it.
That's the tradition, though. Is the first time you eat poutine, you just go, "What is this, Matt?" And then you learn. You throw up and you go, "Okay."
She learned.
With great power comes great responsibility.
She's just so scared. Oh yeah, yeah.
That's funny.
So that was that, and then things turned. You figure you have a story like that, and no matter how many jokes you attach to it, you figure everything's rainbows because.
Yeah.
Here comes this kid out of nowhere, and here's this situation out of nowhere, and somebody's life is saved, and there's a new life, and you're like, that's it.
Yeah. You should be doing like a Billy Graham thing where you walk around just talking about how, like you say on here, sperm
cures cancer. You figure that's it, and that's good. And it didn't. It went the total.
You would think, like I've said it ever since you first told me that story, I've said over and over again that you would think hearing a story like that, anyone who hears that story, how could you possibly be against like stem cell research and stuff like that when you hear that? When you go, the baby's immune system took someone who was terminally ill with radiation packets sewn into them and cured the fucking cancer.
Yeah. And it's never come back.
No,
the cancer's never come back. She's had other issues that led to, me raising Gracie on my own, but it wasn't the cancer.
Right. And that's the thing. I feel like you're almost like, have you ever seen Good Luck Chuck, where these chicks it's Dane Cook. These chicks, you bang Dane Cook because after you bang him, the next guy you meet, you marry.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah. So, but it's just he gets this reputation of being the love guy, whatever.
Right.
You screw him, and then you find true love.
Right.
I'm just like almost like thinking of just having this flush of women coming to you to
fix them, and then they go nutso.
I can only imagine just a line outside. Dambra, come on, give it. All the people who say, I would never sleep with a comic, especially you, Dambra.
I know.
You've got this office. Well, he's an alternative medicine clinic.
You know what it turned into? It turned into this thing of, because you've worked with me a number of times, and I am, obnoxious on stage? What's the word?
I don't even know.
No fear. I don't even know how to explain it. Somebody asked me the other day.
I think it's the title that you were given, which is the king of smart ass comedy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's fair.
I have no boundaries. I never have, or I've never felt that way. But there's people like you that know me when I'm with Gracie and when I'm off stage, and people flip. They're like, that's not what is that?
Well, they almost expect it too afterwards. Like I know that. I've said you're very quick and sharp.
Yeah.
So it's not always coming out, but depending on the context of the conversation, like it's ready.
Yeah, it's
you know what I mean. I think I can't remember what comic was. They had I think it was Burr actually, Bill Burr, where he says, I'm trying to be less of a dick. I'm not turning out the pilot light. That's what he says. So for you, it's like the same thing. The pilot light's always on, and you just got to turn the knob if you want.
I try not to do it with her because she's picking it up.
Grace?
Yeah, she was in the room the other day, and she was playing some game, and I just heard, "Oh, come on!" And that's me, like that. I go, what is? And I heard her under her breath one time, "Son of a bitch," because I say it all the time.
Right.
I heard that one time. But she's super friendly. People love her. So when they find out I'm her father, it's weird. It's a weird on stage, off stage switch.
Yeah. Well, when people threaten, hey, Grace, we're gonna call your dad. It's like, do you really want to?
I know.
You've got that funny story about the time that. Do you mind sharing that story?
What
about the purse or whatever? Gracie's stuff. I think she lost something at school.
Oh, she lost her beret.
Yes.
When she lost her beret at school. She lost her beret at school, and she asked if they could help her find it. And during it's kids' grandmothers that watch.
Okay, like the volunteer parents or whatever. Yeah.
And they told her it's not whatever it is. It's not important. She goes, it is. And she told them it has magic and it's my favorite. Like they're like, yeah, not important. Like they just shuffled them in. And Grace stomped her foot and said, "Fuck, I hate people." Then I got the phone call. I had to go in and talk. And they said, "You don't seem so upset about what she did." And I said, "Not the word. She shouldn't use the word, but don't tell her stuff's not important. You're a teacher. Teach her everybody's stuff is important." And she said, "I don't know what you mean." I said, "How about I dump your purse in the schoolyard?" And she says, "Why would you do that?" I go, "Because it's not important to me." And she goes, "This conversation is over." And Gracie goes, "It is as soon as we find your fucking purse." She got, so you know what? That went, I was good with that for that was kindergarten.
It's like she's dropping F-bombs in kindergarten. See, you were reading it at 12th grade, and she was swearing at a 12th grade.
And last year, she had just started second grade, and I'm doing the Edmonton Comedy Festival, and somebody came up to me and went, there's somebody here that says they know you. They wanted to say hello. And I'm like, okay, what? You don't think about it, right? You never think about it. I come around the corner, and it's the assistant principal. She goes, we were just having dinner, and we saw you on here. We didn't know you did this. And I go, oh, this is going to get ugly. And then once they found out I did it, they all looked at me very different.
And that was the joke about the purse? Yeah. Oh, who cares?
But no, I just mean they all, you're just another parent. And they find out, oh, he's on stage and he's talking about us.
Yep.
Next day, they parted like the Red Sea.
Well, at least they'd be a little more careful what they're saying now.
I know. And then they hired me to be one of those people at the school.
Any good experiences or stories from that?
I got hired because I picked a kid up. He was choking Gracie with her scarf. And it's a one-way out. You can't drive backwards. All the parents are leaving. It's when they're first going in the morning. And I can see her turning colors, and she's pulling at the scarf, and he thinks it's fun. He's laughing and pointing at the other kid, so he's not paying attention to her. He's just pushing her backwards.
Right.
I jumped the fence like I'm in a detective movie, and I go running, and he throws his hands up all cocky. You can't touch me. You can't touch me. So I lifted him. I twisted his hoodie and I lifted him. And I go, technically, I'm not fucking touching you right now. And the principal goes, Mr. Dambra, can we talk for a minute? I go, I'm dead. I'm so dead.
So this is your community service then?
Yeah. And he goes, I could really use somebody like you around here. Because the grandmas won't take that step towards these kids. And there's some kids.
He'll throw you under the bus. Well, let's have Dambra around. And if a kid gets hit, we'll reap the benefits. And
they ask, different parents will ask, what does Mike do here? And he'll always say, well, he's Mike. That's how he explains.
Magic Mike with the kids.
I got a walkie-talkie and a vest.
Do you really? Mm-hmm. That's funny.
Yeah.
Now, when you were, like as I said, you've been doing it for so long, and there's so much. I've only known you as just the outstanding guy. Like I said, the smart-ass king of comedy. When you were coming up, because like I said, right out of the gates, just boom, paid shows, tours, whatever.
Yeah.
Did you have anyone at any point along the way? Like, were there any milestones you hit? Was there any setbacks? Did you have anyone take you under your wing, under their wing, sort of thing? Like,
well, Danny Liberto was his name. We had known each other since first grade. He was like my neighborhood bully. And then I didn't see him again when I moved in fourth grade. I didn't see him. And then they said, if you want to learn, we'll send you. And they thought it was funny because he was just out of control. He wrestled a blow-up doll on stage. He jumped off.
Really?
Yeah. Jump off
He was a neighborhood bully, and then he ended up being a comic. And you were, wow.
And he, my first paid gig at home, he says, you don't come to my house. I don't come to your house. We meet in a parking lot. He was that guy. Okay. I got in the car, and he goes, you think you're funny? And I go, well, I guess we'll see, And he goes, how about this? How about this? You think you're so funny? I'll flip a coin, and if you win, you can close it out.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay. And he was doing it just to be, tough guy.
Right.
And waiting for me to back down. Okay, so I won the coin flip. I'll do it.
Can he do that? Like, here, I couldn't just talk to the other acts and go, oh, no, I'm going to do your job. Because there's club owners, there's they're in charge. Could he do that? Was that something that he could actually?
The only reason he didn't get in trouble is because it went well.
Right.
But no, he couldn't. And he did. And he goes, do it, because he wanted to see me burn in flames. And when I didn't, he said on the way home, I'll teach you what you need to know to get going on this. So he taught me to never leave without my money, how to book a gig, how to put together a promo pack in those days, because you had to send a VHS tape, and sometimes there was a fee,
Wow.
to get guys in, how to get gigs. He taught me all that stuff. And we were the best of friends.
Is he still doing stand-up comedy?
He does not so much anymore. He books his own stuff.
Okay. He's gone more to the producer side.
Yeah. He books his own stuff and hosts his own gigs. But he was, that's who took me. And then, I met guys along the way. Like I spent a weekend with Richard Belzer. I spent a weekend with Richard Jenny, where all weekend, here's what we're going to teach you, or here's what we have to teach you.
Jenny's hilarious. Obviously not anymore. But
told me to get a silk suit.
Did he?
Be ready in 10 years. In 10 years, you'll be headlining. You need a silk suit. Okay. I'm on that. I was making $15 a set. I'm like, this guy's looped.
Get a silk suit.
Yeah, me and Belzer drank Jack Daniels together. So it was an every week, weird circus adventure.
Right.
Constantly. And out here, there were guys that took me, Kenny and Wayne Fleming, Kenny Robinson and Wayne Fleming. They were good to me.
And you were with Yucks. You were signed Yucks.
I was with
guy?
Yucks. Yeah, I was a Yucks. Tattooed to my soul, bro.
Really?
I had it. I had the board game. I had the cassettes they released. I had a T-shirt from every club. If I couldn't get it, I literally whined to play that club. The only thing I never got was the bomber jacket.
Oh, okay.
I had the luggage. I had the Yucks on it.
Wow,
I
didn't realize they had that much merch.
Oh, yeah. I had the watch. I had the sweatshirts. I had the T-shirts, but then I also had the sweatshirts. The sweatshirts just gave the regions, the West, the East.
I see. That would be great. I would love to see that. Do you still have this stuff?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe sometime I'll buy. I don't know when you'll be. When are you home?
I go home after this for a couple days. I've got Medicine Hat, Alberta is their first comedy festival this year.
Really?
I'm going back for that.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. It's good people.
That's good.
Yeah. Me, Chris Gordon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wicked.
Yeah.
Well, there's if you get an opportunity to send a picture, I'll share it with everybody because I would love to just see a table full of Yucks gear, sweatshirts and T-shirts and limited edition bomber jackets.
I got Breslin's got us every Christmas. If you were on roster, you got a Christmas present, and the one year was watches. They were plastic, like literally dollar store watches. Like that was the point. They weren't supposed to last.
Right.
And I was so upset because I finally had this I had a watch now. Like I could wear it everywhere, not just during show. I got this.
Right. You'd think that they would do the quality in the watches just to know your time. Here's your Yuck.
Yep.
Yuck. Make sure you're wearing your official Yucks timekeeper. No, we don't have clocks or lights. You've got the time now.
And I did. My second wife took it and made it into took the face of it, made it into an actual watch.
Wow.
And I had that forever.
Do you know how great that would be to have a watch? So like when it hits the 10-minute mark, you put like amateur.
That's hilarious.
Feature, 45 headliner.
I had it all. And then one time I saw Mark. I was in Toronto playing. I says, "What would you say if I got Yucks tattooed on my arm?" And he said something to the effect of, "That's my fucking arm now."
Really?
That would be my fucking arm. Something to that effect. He was joking. But he was much more serious about it in later years.
When was the last time you've seen him? Mark Breslin, for everyone listening, is the creator, owner, emperor of Yucks.
Last time I saw him, I was playing Toronto. I was playing the Toronto club, and he came down to see me 3 out of the 7 nights in the booth, sat with me, talked. He was really, really good to me. Because all I wanted to be was a Canadian comic. That's how I learned comedy. That's where I blossomed. That's all I wanted, man. That's all I wanted. And he was always quite firm about, you're not Canadian. Like, you're not. You can work our clubs and do our stuff. You're not. My guys come first. And I always respected that because that was his vision. Canadian comedy, let's put it out there. It was one argument. It was about coming out for Melanie, for my wife when she was sick. Working in a place where he didn't have a club, and he says, you can't because those people are my competition. And I says, you don't have a club there. And his stance was, I will. And my stance was, I will quit when you have one. He goes, nope, because we're in court battles with these people now, and they were. And I says, okay, well, I don't know what to tell you. She's dying.
Yeah, I need work.
And he didn't believe that. He didn't believe it. And to his credit, he didn't have to. He didn't have to believe it.
Right. But I mean, I mean, at the end of the day, can't argue a business decision. But at the same time, there's got to be it's smart business to have a little compassion for someone who's. Yeah.
And none of that pushed my buttons. What pushed my buttons with him was he said, why are you going to be a manager at a club? You don't have it anymore. Can't keep up with the young guys anymore. And pushed, and you know me.
Yeah. All you have to do is smart at,
I'm like, you pick your best guy. And you let me open for him for a couple weeks, and you let me know how that works out. And that's when it gets ugly, and then there's no point. And I haven't talked to him since. I haven't talked to him or seen him since.
Well, that's cool.
I think.
I mean, I love the old stories. I've heard so many stories like that. So rather than just sitting here, well, here's this person said this. There's another person talking to Mark.
I can honestly tell you, up till the last time I saw him, I called him Mr. Breslin.
Really?
Always.
Wow.
That was my father. That's that guy. If this is what you want to do, and that's the guy that is at the top of where you're going right now, you call him Mr. Okay. And I always did. Always did.
It's not. It's a respectful thing.
Even here, Howie was always, he was nice to me.
Yeah.
Well, was always a good guy. It was literally, you're crossing territory. We're telling you can't cross. And me, being me, it was like, fuck off. What the fuck?
I use the example all the time. What happens when you tell the kid not to go in the cookie jar?
Yeah.
That's all you need. Just, you want me not to do something, then the last thing you should do is tell me not to do it.
I'm horrible that way. I'm horrible.
Yeah, because it's almost just like, why? I mean, this is going to be a stupid example. Probably get me in shit with my girlfriend for saying but like, I remember, this is the analogy that always comes in my head is years and years and years ago. Before I'd even started stand-up comedy, a friend of mine and I went to Montreal. We went to the strip club.
Yeah.
And I've never been a big fan of strip clubs. Really, honest to God, I haven't been. It's like you go pay $12 for a beer and look at something you can't touch.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like, what's the point? And so I remember like they gave $10, lap dances at this place. And I was like, okay, that's half the price of them. So my friend buys a couple for me. And I've always been the guy who at a private dance, I just sit there with my hands at my sides. Like I don't, even if like I can't, I don't want to touch a stranger. Right. And
right.
In Canada, you can touch or whatever. I don't know if it's different elsewhere, but I never had any interest in that. And I remember sitting there and I was talking in French to this girl because it was Montreal and I'm bilingual. So here's me showing off how big my brain is. And, I remember just talking to her, and in the conversation in French, she was saying she likes dancing here because you can't touch. And immediately I got pissed off.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm sitting here not touching because I'm a good person. I'm not like, I own you for 5 minutes or whatever. I was sitting here, I'm like, I don't like that. But in my head, I'm going, well, now you think I'm doing it because I'm not allowed to.
Yeah.
Like it's not my free will. I don't know. This is always the analogy that comes to my head. It's like, no, I'm pissed off. I'm pissed off. I'm not going to touch, but I'm like, I just don't like that my actions are like, oh, it's because of rules. I'm like, no, it's just, that's who I am. It's like the 2-drink minimum. The idea in the States where you have to have any club you go to, it's a 2-drink minimum. I've only been to one club in the States and it was Gotham, which was an outstanding club. But my 2 drinks were 2 bottles of water. I'm like, I don't need you to tell me to drink.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm Canadian. I'm going to go and I'm going to have 3 drinks. Automatically. I don't need, but as soon as it was like, oh, I have to, well, fuck you. I'm going to sit here and drink 2 bottles of water then. There's your 2 drinks.
I'm bad that way. I'm bad.
It's just something about the rule, a rule that shouldn't be the case. More people are going to drink 2 anyways, but you start putting rules on it. It's like, all right, here's how I obey your rule.
But even now, I haven't worked for them and it's been over a decade, right? There's still, I see this, the symbol or the logo or whatever.
What's that, Yuck Yucks?
Yeah. I still look at it fondly. I shake my head over the situation because anybody that would walk up to me and say, the decision you made to have your daughter was a wrong one. It doesn't get my attention. It doesn't do
Well, how is it
me.
supposed to? What person, like, I don't know. I have never told the story of why I don't work for Yuck Yucks here. I've had offers.
Right.
To work for them. And I was looking forward to working with them. I grew up looking at Yuck Yucks and going like, that's something I'd love to be a part of, to be, offered to sign with them. I don't think it's with my particular situation, without telling the story, there was a part that I was offered something. And in my head, I said, if I was on the other side of the table and I offered somebody something this bad and they accepted, that's not somebody I'd want to work with.
Exactly.
And I think that to tell somebody that their child was a mistake, business or personal, whatever it is, that's not a smart move to play. Because again, if you were like, well, you're right, like, would you want to work someone who would denounce their kids so that you can perform in a different room?
Well,
like,
at the time, it wasn't even, we didn't even have clearance to have Grace yet. And he didn't want me, you need to leave there, get out of there. And I don't do it. I couldn't do that. But he was more about the wife thing. And me not being able to perform anymore, which is funny because I'm better. I'm better now
It's like a boxer. He's fucking the dames that weaken the
I
legs.
can't. I'm better now than I ever was, when he had me. And that's literally the point of you're out on your own. You better pick it up, pal. Not that I ever slouched. I always swung for the fence. But just knowing that there's people going, oh, you're too old now.
Really?
Oh, I get that a lot now.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's without, I'm not kissing your ass. I have not seen a bad set and all the time. Like, I mean, I've seen guys have good sets and bad sets.
Yes.
But if in all fairness, in terms of just you put them out there and it's going to happen. I've seen guys really sweat. I've seen guys, I will not name names, but I've done lots of shows with you where you've hosted and I've watched the headliners sweat afterwards.
Yeah.
Because the room was tough. It was tough, but again, I think that's one of the reasons, I should say, that I like crowd work, because in times like that, now the show is about this hostile crowd. Like, you stand there and if they don't want to hear material or they don't care or they're not invested, but if you start talking to them, now it's a conversation.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And now they're invested in what you're saying because it's about them. You're not talking at them, you're talking to them.
It was those old rough bars with only 2-3 people where I had to have filler and I had to learn to make them pay attention.
Yeah.
I did a TV show once where they interviewed the other guys about the guy the guy was out doing his set and on panel. They were interviewing the other guys and they all spliced it in. It was a cool show.
They would ask about the guy on stage?
Yeah, it was a cool show. And the guy, they asked about me, and the one kid says, I've seen him in some of the roughest bars where by the end, everybody's sitting, listening, clapping. He goes, he's the best bar comic I've ever seen in my life. And the guy goes, is that a compliment? He goes, walk into a bar with him where you have to do a show and he calms them down. And then you tell me if it's a compliment or not.
Yeah.
That was the nicest thing anybody's ever said.
Well, it's not even like, oh, we're a good bar comic, but the clubs, I mean, like I said, I have worked with you in clubs, all over Canada. I've worked with you in bar shows.
Yeah.
We've done one-nighters for corporate events.
Yep.
We worked at a school that was heavily populated, a university, heavily populated with people with special needs.
Yes.
And I remember the booker, going, actually, I think it was you. We walked in and you're like, what the fuck? Does the booker not know what I do? And I remember, but the whole show went great, and you didn't end up doing any of the material about that. It was just, but again, it was talking to the crowd, getting people engaged, and it went well. If you were playing with pieces on a table and just organizing, okay, what would be the nightmare? Put this person in this room. I would say that would have been, if I was in your shoes, I'd be like, what the fuck is gonna? And it went great. It didn't go okay. It went great. And so just like I said, I haven't seen you struggle.
No, it happens once a year. Once a year,
really?
God goes, put your feet on the ground there, happy boy. Yeah.
Can you recall a story in the last while?
Where you've had while?
Well, any story really.
Okay, I just saw a guy. I just saw a guy that hasn't done comedy in almost 20 years. He came to one of my one-nighters, walked in, saw that I was going to be there. He was a yucks guy. He was a funny guy, too. He was a funny guy. He came home, his wife had cleaned out the house, taken the kids, left nothing.
Christ.
Like nothing. And he never went back on stage again. He said, I was never funny after that. I never felt funny. Anyways, it was one of my...
like the pilot light went right out on that one.
It was one of my first co-headliner tours, and we went to this town. And they had told me, and I was cocky, because it was my first... Let Bobby go last the first night, just so you can see how it's done, how he wraps it up and does everything, announcements at the end, because it's just a 2-person one-nighter. Got this. And there was nothing. There was just nothing. I couldn't, no matter what I did, there was no, and finally this old man, an old, ancient, stood up and he goes, you fucking suck, he says. And I go, excuse me, sir? He goes, you heard what I fucking said. And he sits down and they start applauding. So I go, you know what? There's no point. You're not listening. Like, forget it. I don't care. Here he is. And I bring Bobby to the stage. Bobby tells a street joke, and they fall on the floor like it was the second coming of Christ. And for 40 minutes, I couldn't inch out of that room fast enough. The pops were so huge. And I saw him after 20 years, and I go, do you remember Assiniboia? Do you remember? He goes, do you still carry that with you? I go, I sure do. Yes, I do. Horrible. Oh, that was horrible. Yeah.
There are those shows where just whatever it is, it's not how much you're giving it. It doesn't matter. They just not buying it.
Last week, here on the Friday night,
Was it Friday Late Show?
No, it was
wasn't in the
early.
door. Okay,
and
Friday
it was
early.
packed. And they just decided we're all going to sit here and stare at everybody. Not one guy, everybody. All 4 comics.
200 people just staring.
And Tommy, who I love, the master of the understatement, says, I do not think I appreciate these people. That is the understatement of the year. Last Friday. And I haven't had 2 like that, because then there's Friday Late Show, right?
Right.
Which I'm rough on myself about anyways. I haven't had 2 like that forever.
Right.
And
But
so
Friday was Late Show wasn't, right?
Late Show was less people but friendlier.
Okay, so it wasn't like you had the bat and then no follow-up. It hasn't been 2 still in a long time. It's not like that streak ended last week.
I'll kill myself. I'll kill myself, bro. 54 years old, 30 years in. I have 2 in a row. I'm done. And you know what? I've taken, we touched on that and we're joking about it, but I take grief from, there's new kids that'll say, step aside, it's time. Fresh faces or whatever.
Really?
Yes.
I still can't. I know that they say that behind people's back. A lot of people have a lot of gumption when they're not face to face, but you get people who will tell you to your face, step aside.
Yeah,
really?
Yes. And I've said the same thing every time. If you're serious and you're seeing me go on stage and I'm just phoning it in, or it's not happening and I'm getting off stage saying that was good and it's horrible.
Right.
Don't book me. Get me out. Remove me. I don't want to be one of those guys.
Right.
I don't.
It's sad. I mean, I've seen it. It's sad to watch.
Right. You know who I'm talking about. You know the different people.
And they're good human beings. That's
Absolutely.
the thing. They're
Yes.
good people, but it's just one of those like it's
putting
still
down
business.
So putting down an old dog. It's like, No,
you got to have multiple pots on the stove so
you
that if one of the burners goes out.
You don't chase the mailman like you used to anymore there, Sparky. If I'm that guy, sit me down like an intervention and go, you're done. Because I don't want to work. I don't want to. That's not what this business is about. I always want to swing. So usually I'll let them mouth and then I'll ask to be put on in front of them, which you did once to a kid here.
Really? Yeah. I don't know if it was to get him. I think I was joking and he's like, yeah, go on before me. And I was like, really?
He says, no, he says, I could follow anybody in this room. And
I remember
you
exactly
said Mike Dambra's here. And he goes, yeah, I know he's here. I could follow him. And you go, okay. Mike, you want to go up and do 7 for me up front in front of him? And then afterwards, he got off stage and went, you did that on purpose. And you go, yep.
Yeah. Because you said
I
know exactly who you're talking about. At first, I was like, why would I do that stuff? Yeah, that's someone who needed it.
Yep.
Yep.
That was a Monday. And you said, just if you want to take it to 10, you can. You said 7 minutes. And I go, no, I'm good. And you said, you got this one, right? I go, I know what you're looking for.
Yeah, that was funny. But and I think that's one of those things. That's somebody who's been a hothead and a loudmouth for a long time.
Yes.
And did need that. Yeah, you can follow anyone. Why aren't you headlining this club every weekend? And all right, well, it's amateur night. So the crowd's already got the lowest expectations that you could possibly ask them for.
Yeah.
And you come in here in the room in front of every other comic, people you don't know, whatever, talking about how you're better than them. That's a huge ego, very arrogant. And then to say you could follow anybody. Okay.
All right, here we go.
Here's I wasn't being a dick. I was giving him the opportunity to prove me wrong.
So mad. He was I remember that. But yeah, there's guys like that now that I just say, okay, all right.
Right.
I'll go first, bro. You're right. I'm just doddering old man.
Have they closed down any more places in Toronto that you love?
No, I still miss that place though.
Yeah. Mikey's got you're a big hobbyist. You love old music.
Yeah.
Like, not records, but older tunes and things like that, right?
Yep.
And of course, comic books,
old movies that you can't get because everybody now will say, you could download that on.
Right.
Sort of find it because, 80% of the old shows. No, you can't. You can't.
Right. Only the super big ones. But if you're looking for sort of the indie stuff, it's just,
you can't find it.
Yeah.
I collect that. I like that stuff. So wherever I go, my favorite places has something like that there.
Right.
There was one right by the Toronto Club. I screamed. You were with me.
Oh, yeah. I was with you. Well, they had a restaurant that I frequent every single time I go there. And I don't even know how to tell you guys visually how this was happening. But I'm talking with Mikey about his place is closed down. And I go, yeah, there's just everything's changes all the time. Things are shutting down. And I walk right up to the front door of this place. and I pull on the handle.
There's signs everywhere in the
There's
windows.
signs everywhere in the windows. Like, I was so oblivious. I was just right into my conversation. I remember driving by it the day before, seeing a sign up, and I thought maybe it was just being blocked for an advertisement or some construction or something somewhere else.
Yeah.
And it was just, I walked right up, I pulled the door, and it was like, I can only imagine the look on my face. Like, what?
You looked in that window.
that?
It felt like eternity. I'm sure it was like 12 seconds, but you just stared like
I was
there's
like,
no way.
Everything's gone. The tables are gone. The chairs. This is a place where I would go once every like 7-8 months. The waiter knew me by name, even though I would only go in 1 or 2 times that week, and then it'd be 8 months before he saw me. But I went there every time, and I was just like, what? It's like 5 years. What happened?
Yeah. The place that I would go to, the guy I'd give him tickets as soon as I walked up the stairs. He'd shake my hand, hug me. And then at the end of the tour, he always had something for me. Here, take this. Yeah. Give me the box set of The Man from U.N.C.L.E., the TV show from the 60s.
Yep.
It's a box. It's a attaché spy case. And inside is every
All the
episode
episodes?
ever.
Did
gone.
you ever?
The place is gone.
So, I mean, anything you have coming up, anything exciting? You do have the Medicine Hat Comedy Festival that you're going to be doing.
And then I'm doing lucky because we talked a long time ago. Edmonton Comedy Festival, I'm doing it for my 4th straight year. And the deal is you do it for 3 years and you take some time off if you live there locally and come back around in a couple of years. And he said, no, we have people requesting your show and we'd like you back.
They want to sell tickets. If you can, just like your first show, hey, you can put 100 people in seats. And yep, you're number 51.
You're in.
Yep.
So
3 years. Well, hey, you're here. Welcome to number 4.
It's a crazy schedule. I got that. I got Calgary coming up. A week in New York at the new club. Comedy at the Carlson. That's a huge one.
In New York
Rochester.
State?
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Huge.
New place.
Yeah. They built it like all his favorite clubs. So he's got a giant room for the big shows. He's got a medium room when it doesn't sell out. He's got a smaller room for open mics. It's huge. This week is Big Pussy from The Sopranos he's got.
Big Pussy Bum is here. Yeah. Fuck, I can't remember his name.
Well, that's
I knew it. I used to know the actor's name, and I can't.
But that's how he
comedy.
I guess he's there this weekend.
Very cool.
First night was Birbiglia. That's how he opened.
Right.
Or no, Stanhope was the soft open.
Excuse me.
Oh, bless you.
Ragweed
and then
season.
he had Birbiglia, and he's had all those. So when he just put out the poster of who's coming this year, there's me stuck in between. I'm in between Slayton and Tom Green.
Oh, Bobby Slayton?
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, I'm good to be on this poster. I'll take it. So yeah, I got that. It's booked all the way through till March of next year.
So how do you have a website or Facebook page anywhere where people can see?
Yeah, there's a Facebook fan page, Mike Dambra. The Facebook fan page is. I list all that stuff. Nice.
And do you still have what was the name of your album? Just in case anyone wants. Is it on iTunes or anything like that?
Oh, Love on a Par 3 Golf Course. They put me at a golf course, and I didn't know it was a golf course. They moved the show so we could continue to do the show. Something happened to the other venue. Anyways, the bathrooms were outside. And the guy goes, do you mind if I tape you? I go, you could try this. It's not. And it just worked because people are getting up to walk. Where are you going? I'm going to pee. On the golf course? Like, I didn't know what.
That there was bathrooms.
It was fish out of water, and it worked. And so it's on. I think it's still on iTunes. I don't know.
And it's called Love on a Par 3 Golf Course?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for sitting down with me, my friend. I appreciate all the conversation
Always.
and the catching up.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. So one last time, where can people find you?
People can find me on Facebook, Mike Dambra. Just type in Mike Dambra.
Mike Dambra, you'll be the one there?
Yeah.
Awesome. And of course, if you guys are looking for the album, it's out there. Love on a Par 3 Golf Course. Thanks so much for sitting down with me. We will chat again.
Absolutely.
This won't be the last time.
All right.
Thanks, buddy.
See ya.